What if the life you've been told to want isn't actually the life you want? Think about it. From childhood, we're handed a blueprint. Study hard, find a career, build a family, buy a house, work your way upward, stay busy, stay productive, keep moving. And if you follow the script correctly, you're promised something at the end. Happiness. But what if happiness isn't waiting at the end of that road? What if the road itself was chosen for you long before you had the chance to question it? For centuries, society has repeated the same message. Success comes from participation. Be useful, be responsible, contribute, achieve. And for many people, that path works. But throughout history, there have always been strange individuals who looked at the crowd moving in one direction and quietly walked the other way. Not because they were lazy, not because they were failures, but because they saw something everyone else seemed to miss. They saw that the things society rewards are not always the things that bring peace. And perhaps no philosopher understood this better than Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer believed that beneath every human action lies an invisible force, a blind, irrational drive pushing us forward. It whispers constantly, want more, become more, earn more, achieve more, be admired, be desired, never stop. According to him, this endless wanting is the source of much of human suffering, because desire is a game you can never win. The moment one goal is achieved, another appears. The promotion becomes the next promotion. The house becomes a bigger house. The relationship becomes new expectations. The finish line keeps moving. And so people spend their lives running on a treadmill they mistake for progress. Schopenhauer offered a radical alternative. Need less, desire less, compete less. Instead of chasing happiness, remove the things that disturb your peace. The modern world teaches us to maximize life. Schopenhauer taught us to simplify it, because peace isn't found by adding more, it's found by needing less. And perhaps that's why his philosophy feels so dangerous today. A society built on consumption cannot easily profit from contentment. The person who is satisfied with little is difficult to control, difficult to market to, difficult to keep running. But Schopenhauer wasn't alone. 2,000 years earlier, in ancient China, another philosopher arrived at a similar conclusion. His name was Zhuangzi, and he spent much of his life laughing at society's obsession with status, achievement, and social approval. Zhuangzi noticed something strange about human beings. Life is limited, but the mind is not. The mind can imagine endless ambitions, endless desires, endless possibilities. And because of this, people often attempt to fit infinite dreams into a finite existence. The result? Exhaustion. Modern culture celebrates overwork. We glorify the entrepreneur sleeping 4 hours a night, the executive answering emails at midnight, the student sacrificing health for achievement. Burnout has become a badge of honor. Yet Zhuangzi would have looked at this and asked a simple question. Why are you turning your life into a battle? Why are you treating existence like a race? He believed the wisest path wasn't extreme success or extreme failure. It was balance. To know your limits, to respect them, to stop forcing life into shapes it was never meant to take. You may never become famous. You may never build an empire. You may never have strangers applauding your achievements. But you might gain something far rarer: your health, your sanity, your peace. Then there were philosophers whose ideas challenged some of society's deepest assumptions. Take Democritus and Thales. Both questioned whether having children was necessary for a fulfilled life. Not because they hated families, but because they understood a difficult truth. Every attachment carries the possibility of suffering. To love deeply is also to become vulnerable to loss. Most people avoid saying this aloud because it sounds harsh. Yet these philosophers forced themselves to confront realities that others preferred not to discuss. The point wasn't that nobody should have children. The point was that people should think carefully before accepting life choices simply because everyone else accepts them. And then there was Epicurus, perhaps the most misunderstood philosopher in history. Today, the word hedonist makes us think of indulgence, pleasure, excess, luxury. But Epicurus taught almost the opposite. He argued that the best pleasures are the simplest ones: a good conversation, a peaceful evening, a modest meal, close friendships, a quiet mind. He warned that some pleasures arrive disguised as rewards while secretly creating new forms of suffering. Even sex, which many consider one of life's greatest pleasures, was viewed cautiously by Epicurus, not because pleasure was bad, but because every pleasure has a cost, and wisdom means asking whether the cost is worth paying. His philosophy can be summarized in one question: does this bring lasting peace or temporary excitement? Most people spend their lives chasing excitement. Epicurus spent his life searching for peace. And perhaps that's the thread connecting all of these philosophers. They refused to accept society's definition of a good life. They questioned assumptions most people never examine. They asked uncomfortable questions. What if ambition isn't always healthy? What if success isn't always success? What if being normal isn't necessarily happy? The truth is, society needs conformity. It depends on people following established paths. But happiness has never been a mass-produced product. It has always been deeply personal. For some, fulfillment comes through family, achievement, and responsibility. For others, it comes through solitude, simplicity, and freedom. Neither path is universally correct. The danger begins when we assume that one path must fit everyone. Because the greatest tragedy isn't living unconventionally. It's spending your entire life pursuing someone else's version of happiness, and one day realizing it was never yours. The philosophers we've explored weren't offering answers. They were offering permission. Permission to question. Permission to think. Permission to choose differently. And perhaps that's the advice society is most uncomfortable hearing. You do not have to want what everyone else wants. You only have to discover what genuinely brings you peace.